Hello, everybody. Here we are at Quantum Leap Revisited. We're here with a fine panel of gentlemen that we're all going to be discussing this classic episode of Quantum Leap called It Again Seymour. It's the first season. It's the 9th episode of the first season, and it's great to see everybody. Let's see who we got here. Let's just say a few hellos. Tex, how's it going? Richard, Ron Donofero. I said your name right.
Woohoo!
A lot of good stuff going on, and we also are live on Rumble, where we also have a really nice thing going on. 1 second.
The fuzz is calling.
No, I'm actually
I'm the fuzz.
yeah, hold on 1 second. I know this sounds very bumbly. No, I just have to send Script a link. I kind of fumbled that one, and now I'm going to send it to him. So invite, copy. I apologize for all these technical things, but in 1 second, it's all going to be good.
Happy Monday.
So Script will be here.
Script is 100% fine. I actually am. I for some reason didn't send him a link. Now I understand you, Cece. That happened once when. That's what you tell me sometimes.
I'm notorious about that.
Oh no, I feel so bad because it's I'm such a disgrace.
What kind of 2-bit flim flam operation you running?
Script, my apologies, man. That's on me. I sent it out, and it was a strange thing. I was sure I sent it, and now you said when you sent it to me, I saw that I didn't. But we've fixed everything here, and we're all good, and we're ready to go. So we've got our full panel. It's the weirdest thing. It's almost like I didn't realize. Only when we started talking, I realized that you weren't here, and even then, I didn't think that I didn't send you the link. But none of that matters. We got some great people here. We got people here. We got people on Rumble. Thank you to everybody that's turned up. And today we're going to be discussing It Again Seymour Season 1. Now I'm just going to go one by one, just introduce the panel as usual. We have the real Sean Krummel, the artist. He has his own sticker collection. He has a YouTube channel where he does drawings and retro comic book reviews, and also streams about pop culture. Sean, everything okay?
All good here.
Cool. Next, we have Ro from the Scarif Podcast, veteran newsman I don't know why I got stuck. I didn't do it well, Ro. He's a veteran in the broadcast news industry, also knowledgeable when it comes to equipment, cinematography, things like that. He has his own podcast, the Scarif Podcast, where he discusses a lot of Star Wars stuff in general. Also very knowledgeable guy about science fiction, and he's the co-founder of the Red 5 Network. You could find his podcast anywhere that there's podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple, anywhere. Highly recommend this podcast. You guys should check it out. How's it going, Ro?
How's it going with you, Price of Reason? Good to be here. Good to be seen.
It's going okay. It's been sort of a hectic day, but I'm here. And next we have the Script Doctor. Script, as I said, my bad on this one. I fumbled it completely. Thanks for thanks for bringing it to my attention. How's it going?
It's going well. I literally got out of a pitch meeting of sorts like less than 15 minutes ago. So I'm happy to be here to chill out and talk some Quantum Leap with you guys.
Yes, and now that everybody's here, I'm gonna chill out too. I'm gonna be a little more chill. So thanks for showing up. You have your own. First of all, you have a Patreon where. Okay. I'm gonna take a step back. Script Doctor is a experienced screenwriter, has been doing this for years, and he has his own Patreon in which he teaches people about screenwriting and things like that. In addition, he has his own YouTube channel where he also covers a lot of interesting topics, and most importantly, he has his new show on Saturdays, and on that show he basically reviews scripts that haven't yet been made into movies, but have been sort of circulating Hollywood and things like that. It's super interesting for people who have already caught it, because he already did one last week, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And about Madden, that Madden script, that was just really, really interesting. So highly recommend that. Highly recommend his channel. Very insightful. How's it going, Script?
It's going great. I'm happy to be here with you, gentlemen, and this is a good episode to talk about.
It certainly is, and I'm happy also. Nick had a last-minute sort of emergency, something that had to do with his job, and that brings me to my final guest here, which is CC Karaoke. If you've ever looked for a karaoke song online, you probably ran into CC Karaoke's channel. It's been around for a while, has a huge following, and in addition to that, he's just a good guy that knows a lot about pop culture, a lot of cool science fiction stuff, a lot of stuff that we like, and I'm super happy to have him here today. He really stepped in last minute to cover for for Nick, and we're really grateful. Thanks for being here, CC. How are you?
It's great to be here. Guest fill-in panelist. I'm looking forward to the discussion. And I finished the episode about 5 seconds before I popped on. Very last minute. But, I even though I haven't seen the episode in years, I remembered it the moment you told me which one it was. So
I feel like it's kind of a classic. It's a classic episode, in my opinion.
I do not remember every single episode as many times as I watched the show. But for whatever reason, that one is like, oh yeah. So
yeah, no, I think it's memorable for a few different reasons. For me, it's memorable because, and I'm sorry, I'm going to sound maybe not everybody will like what I have to say, but the love interest in this episode is always very memorable, and she appears in the credits, and she seemed, that was one of the more interesting love interests that they set up for him.
He was definitely all for it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he seemed, Scott Bakula himself seemed happy.
Well, it was quite a turn from the last kiss that he gave getting to this adventure. So it's I'm sure he's happier.
Yes, yes, I think that he did seem happier.
She also gives off like Kathleen Turner, Roger Rabbit, Jessica Rabbit type vibes. Like even she comes up at one point and says something, and she's had that sort of hot smoker voice going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
oh, yeah. She's
sorry,
got the sexy. She's got the sexy, seductive tone and execution down pat. It's great. It's right out of. I mean, this is a film noir episode. It's right out of film noir.
Yeah. And it's nice. I said it earlier in the chat. It's nice to see the Bradbury building with the lights on.
Yeah. I get it.
I'm wondering, I think somebody was
Thank
writing
you,
something in the chat. Was she in other things? I feel like I never really saw Babylon 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
That's probably the big one.
I actually don't really, I admit that that's something that's missing in my thing. I've watched almost every a lot of sci-fi shows, a lot of classics, and Babylon 5 is something that I've never really dealt with.
Me neither, actually.
It's classic. Got to get on it.
And she had a main role there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And she looked nice there, too?
Oh, yeah. Everybody's sultry, yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Richard Brooks says, price shame on you. I'm sorry. I'll make time for it. I've watched, not that I'm trying to, I won't take a detour here, but I've seen every episode of Doctor Who ever. Star Trek, with the exception of Voyager, all the classics I've seen. I mean, I've seen some of Voyager, but not all of it. But all the other stuff, I've seen everything. There's a lot of stuff that I've seen. It's just sometimes you run into a show where you don't get around to it. Kind of like Roe with Quantum Leap.
Yeah,
I think
never got around to it.
It's a show that you knew that you heard about and you knew you wanted to check it out, but you just never got a chance to do it. And sometimes the kind of thing that we're doing here, that's exactly the right setting to do it.
Even more importantly, she's in Maniac Cop.
Oh,
I'm kidding. She's in it, but it's.
I don't know. Ashamed to say that I don't know what that is either. I don't know if I was supposed to, but
I don't know if that's your thing, Price. It's more B-movie horror, like late night USA Network type stuff.
So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the file. I'm so bumbly today. I admit. Everything's been very hectic for me until this thing. So
it's been a rough evening. I've already been on 2 shows before tonight.
Yeah,
humble brag.
No, but I've actually been on another one, and I was working on a video. I did something in the morning.
We're all hustling, man. We're all hustling.
Yeah, exactly.
I was coloring. Just doing a sketch cover for a video.
That's more important than what we were doing.
Yeah.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, this one, it starts off, we see the thing that happened last time with the car and this thing, and then he arrives.
That's the kiss we're talking about?
Yes, that awkward kiss. And here he arrives, he's standing over a dead body, and a police officer arrives and arrests him. And there's this interesting bit that he thinks he's in LA because he says, "Oh, you're not going to make it for the Dodgers game." But it turns out that it's the time where the Dodgers weren't in LA. They're, I guess, Brooklyn. Yes, they're Brooklyn Dodgers. And
I'm so not into sports that all of that stuff was, and I knew something was going on, but I didn't connect it because I'm not into sports. I could care less. So I'm like, what's going on? Why are they mentioning this too much?
No, I knew that. I was, it's not that I all the time. It's not that I'm the biggest sports fan. There's some sports that I like more than others. Baseball for me is kind of something that if I'm at a game, I don't mind it. But anything else, watching on TV and sitting there for several hours, it's not my top priority. I don't have anything. Maybe if you're sitting with friends or something, but we're the type of guys that watch Quantum Leap. I know that
exactly.
I'm sure there's fun in it. I do like going to games, but I do that maybe once every 3 or 4 years. So then we have the opening that already starts looking like the real opening, not the bogus one that we've been looking at for a while in terms of the titles.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This isn't my imagination, right? This is the good song with the good credits, right?
You know what? Yeah. I still.
Yeah, the one I saw, it still had the old. Or the first.
Oh, you still had the old one? How did I get the new one then? Oh,
are you on Roku watching it, or?
I watch it on Roku TV.
Some of these services, they have it in a different thing. So I don't know. This one for me, maybe I'm looking at a file that initially came from some type of syndication. It could be. So maybe something like that. It's called Play It Again Seymour, of course, a play on Play It Again Sam from Casablanca.
Is this the last episode of season 1?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
At least as far as Roku is concerned.
Right, exactly.
So, what was I going to say? So we're here. Sam's in a jail cell, and he's kind of amused because he looks like Humphrey Bogart. And
spitting image. Look at that.
Yeah, did you buy that?
No.
Yeah, no, he didn't really look like him, but I guess that's the best lookalike they could have found.
Right.
Oh, maybe in that one freeze frame a little bit, but
yeah.
And then Al is here, and this is an interesting part because when he's in jail here and he's telling him, I don't know if does Al already know all the info when he sees him here? I know that Sam remembers that a guy is about to walk in.
Sam starts getting deja vu, and he knows that a bald cop is going to let him out because the bullet didn't match his gun. As far as what Al was talking about, I forget, actually.
So
his 3 ex-wives? No, that's later.
Oh no,
he's probably talking about stuff.
He's talking
like
about Tina has a friend, and then Sam's like, I don't want to hear your gross stories or your sleazy stories, and he's like, they're sleazy, and then they're sleazy, and then
he jumps to conclusions.
Yeah, he's like, Tina knows a guy that knows about a horse or something, or maybe that's later, but
something like that.
Yeah.
So then he runs into an old lady that thinks that he's Humphrey Bogart, and he says, "I'm not." She gets annoyed at him, and then
it's such a 50s thing to do,
for sure.
And do you recognize the building, Bryce?
Does anybody in the chat recognize the building? Are we too much of a nerd?
Oh, I mean, come on! It's a 1982 classic.
There you go.
I actually went to that building when we lived in LA, and they don't let you up on any of the floors beyond this one, but
because that's where the replicants are.
Mm-hmm.
Sebastian's apartment from Blade Runner.
Blade Runner text. Blade Runner.
Ah, okay. I didn't know actually.
Yeah.
But
it's kind of iconic. Like when I saw that wide shot and then the camera tilts up, I'm like, oh, I know this building. And it, like I said, it looks different with the lights on.
Yeah, at first I wasn't sure it was that. I was like, aren't they supposed to be in New York?
So yeah, no, that's when I didn't know what you guys were talking about this building, but yeah, they're supposed to be in New York.
Mm-hmm. But they filmed it in downtown LA.
Sure.
So at this point, he walks in and then he sees this news guy Seymour, and one guy is sort of the landlord, the guy with the mustache. The other guy, guess, is an employee there or something.
He runs the elevator.
He runs the elevator, right? So at this point, Seymour, he's very excited. He's talking all these kind of detective terms. He's telling, "Oh, you're gonna get the drop on the bad guy or whatever it is," using all these kind of annoying slang. This is also a known actor.
Yep.
He's been he passed away, right, in recent years.
Yeah, he is. I wrote it down. I was forgetting.
Yeah, he was in Sex and the City. He's in big character actor, done a lot.
Where is it?
Willie Garson.
Yeah. I actually I prefer I liked him better in what was that thing with
X-Files.
Yes, but no, there was another thing. There was something
Monk.
Another one, the guy that he was a criminal, Matt Bomer.
Come on, Sean.
Stargate. He's seen a lot.
Matt Bomer. Matt Bomer is a criminal that he steals stuff.
Mm.
Come on. It was a USA show. A guy that's the thief. He's a professional thief, but the FBI recruits him.
Matt Bomer?
God, USA shows are a little bit trickier for me to remember.
No, but this was a somewhat decent one, and he had a good role in it. He was.
No.
Nobody in the chat knows. Nobody in the chat knows this thing.
It knows a TV show.
Nobody knew Blade Runner. That's even more astounding to me.
I figured someone would have popped it up in the chat. Yeah,
I'm just looking over his resume for anything with a lot of credits. White Collar, 81 episodes.
White Collar. That's the one.
Okay.
That's exactly what I meant.
All right.
Never saw that one.
Never heard
I
of
haven't
it.
seen it, but it's actually well received.
This is what you were doing when you weren't watching Babylon 5, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I didn't watch it either, so don't feel bad.
I don't know why that show I used to watch that White Collar one, because he was a thief and that guy was like another thief with him, and I thought that they were good on that show. Certainly better than Sex and the City.
Mm-hmm. Well, just about.
Sex and the City is
a low bar.
Sex and the City is the type of show that you only watch if you have, let's say, a girlfriend and she makes you watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I watched it, and sadly I probably have seen every episode of that stupid show. I don't think there's another show like that I dislike so much that I've seen every episode of. Anyhow, Sam is here. He's talking to him. The guy, he breaks his glasses, and he pays for his paper, which he usually doesn't do, and they're all impressed with it. And Seymour breaks his glasses, and they're all kind of laughing at him, but Sam is still kind of chivalrous and nice, and he fixes his glasses. which shows that he has some personal character. This shot was used in all the credits later. It's a classic shot. So he's here, and then once he arrives, then this nice lady shows up.
Nice lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost wish they did this episode in black and white.
Yeah.
It could have worked. Yeah, totally could have worked.
Allison Grimsley is her character name.
Right, and she very much is
Nice
into
lady.
Sam.
She's the now widowed wife of the murdered detective partner. The guy that got killed was his partner. I don't know if we mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, no. That's an important detail, that her husband was the guy that was killed, but now she's kissing Sam. That sort of seems a bit strange, because you'd think she'd be sad that her husband died, but instead she's really into his partner.
My wife and I watch a lot of crime documentaries, and when they kissed, the first thing that I thought of was like, don't let the police find out, because that's motive, and then they'll start asking questions. All this stuff came running through my head, which obviously, the two characters also kind of start talking about.
Right.
Yeah, they actually had good chemistry.
They did. And I think that I understand why, because she's
a nice lady.
She's a nice lady, and I think that Scott Bakula must have seen who they cast in the role, and he thought, like, you know what, I think I can give a good performance here.
I've been winging it up until now, but now I'll try.
He seemed more interested this time. I don't know.
I still prefer Mitzi from 5 episodes ago.
She was a nice lady.
The one that was in a love triangle with John Stamos and Tony Danza.
Yes,
they're not in the series, but yes.
Yeah. You guys were in earlier episodes of our discussions, you guys were talking about how there's a certain point in this first season where it seems like the writers or the show kind of found its legs. And I feel like this show, and obviously it's the last one of this first season, I feel like this is where everybody, like everything is run like a well-oiled machine. I think you've got locations that are great. You've got the plot that, again, is easy and simple to understand. You've got the intricacy and the little twists and turns of the mystery of stuff. Al is on point.
Mm-hmm.
I think this episode really has turned out to be one of my top favorites of this season so far.
And you also got the fun play of a specific genre, like an old detective movie.
And this is actually what I've always liked about this show, that it's able to do that it can do different genres. And that was really the point that Donald Belisario, I believe, always wanted. He wanted that anthology show that he could explore all of these different type of genres. And I think that here it's the right balance. You have the characters that we already know. The machine, like you just said, Ro, it's well-oiled, it's working, and the writers are doing a good job, and just the casting, everything seems to be working here. Mm-hmm. They found a balance. Script, I'm right about that, right? He wanted to do an anthology show?
Yeah, he was trying to do a fun anthology show. Because he didn't want to be pigeonholed into a single genre with a standing set and a boring atmosphere. I mean, this is the guy that did Magnum PI, right? So he was stuck with that standing set on the foundation that Thomas Magnum was on, and then he'd have to just go throughout various parts of Hawaii and explore that. But it was always going to be a simple detective show, private eye investigation, what have you. He wanted something that opened up a lot more variety. And he found a way to do that, and at the same time keep two very stable and reliable characters to experience all these different types of stories in these different types of genres throughout the 5 seasons. And he probably had more ideas he wanted to do further if the show had been renewed. But yeah, he was looking to really have fun experimenting with the variety of potential stories in a TV show. And anthologies, aside from like Outer Limits and Twilight Zone, they were mostly hit and miss.
Right. And I think that he was saying once in an interview that the networks weren't crazy about anthology.
Oh yeah, because they wanted something very, very comfortable, stable, reliable. People wouldn't be jarred by a change in episode to episode based on its aesthetics, which is one of the things that anthologies have. You're getting almost a brand new show every week, and from network perspective, based on audience reception, not a whole lot of people really like that. But one thing that was kind of fascinating is Quantum Leap kind of found the first way to get around that, because it wasn't so much about the familiar setting, it was about the familiar characters. So people were coming back to see Sam and Al in an adventure every week that was very different from the previous one, and that's why Quantum Leap became a success. Whereas in a traditional anthology, you have a new cast of characters every episode. There's almost no familiarity to it. New director, different writer. So it's all over the place. And so you're just watching kind of vignettes, so to speak. Whereas this one here, you're watching an anthology that's also got this underlying plot of a journey of Sam trying to get his way back home.
Right.
I can't think of many other shows outside of Outer Limits and Twilight Zone that did that. Do you know?
Amazing Stories was kind of anthology.
Amazing Stories kind of anthology. You can argue the Hulk with Bill Bixby kind of had that there, because he was traveling from one town to another. He was the only, him and a few others were very much the only main cast, and then you always meet new characters every episode, a new town.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Tex Rogers asked, does anyone else think of the Maltese Falcon in the end of that office scene?
It's been a long time since I've watched that movie.
And I think that Rhonda and Affair also thought that they had good chemistry, just like we did. The Time Tunnel. Yes, you're right, Richard Brooks. There was a series in the 60s, The Time Tunnel, where Tony and Doug, I believe it was Tony and Doug, that was their names. They go through that, it looks like
through a massive time tunnel. That's an Irwin Allen show. I only think that got one season, if I'm not mistaken.
I've actually watched that years ago, some episodes of that, and I didn't dislike it. I thought they did something cool there. I'm surprised that it didn't do better. Did it ever develop?
Show.
I see. Did it ever develop like a cult following or anything, or nobody cares?
Oh yeah, it got a cult following, and they even tried to remake it a couple of times in the 90s, and the pilots were not that great. But I mean, I would not be surprised if someone manages to get the rights to the Time Tunnel franchise and try again in the next few years, because
directed by Michael Bay.
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept. But that one too has also got the same concept of this one. Two guys, one guy goes back in time to save his father, and another guy goes back in time to get him. But they find out that there's a conflict in that, and so they are trapped in time. However, the people in the present can send stuff to them in the past to help them survive until the time tunnel kind of pulls them into another time period again. So it's a very crazy gimmick, but one that Tom Belisario used here, but with a lot more refinement.
Right. Did that series even have a real ending, or you just watch a season of it and you're left stranded?
Pretty much they're left stranded, I think. Yeah.
That's a shame, because I do remember watching a few episodes on special airings or whatever it is, and I actually enjoyed it. I thought to myself, I like this show. I never knew it didn't have so many episodes. So back to this thing here. Remind me here. There's something here. Oh, he's in an elevator, and he almost dies.
His first attack on his life.
Right. It's there's some kind of malfunction with the elevator, and he just barely, saves himself from.
The door's not supposed to open, but the safety latch is messed up.
Right, and everybody here seems very surprised, and this is going on.
I really enjoyed Seymour's his vernacular, his slang, his all the stuff. It was really interesting to see him on screen and really hear all his little quips and stuff like that. It made it for a fun episode.
And I think here, I don't know at what point Al starts suspecting that maybe the woman.
I think it may be later than this.
Maybe later than this?
Yeah, because it's too early.
Too early?
Yeah.
This is where Al's quipping about it, making jokes, and And
Right.
And Sam's like, would you stop doing that kind of thing? It's like he's getting annoyed by it because he's totally in love with her boobs,
Mhm.
with her face.
And then Al's like, oh, I'm sure she could part the Red Army. I don't know what he starts telling all this stuff. Those were good parts. I thought that Al was well used in these scenes. Added just the right amount of humor. Now, remind me here, is this the part? This is the part where I think Al starts suspecting her.
Yeah. Well, he found the book because Sam's wondering why he keeps having deja vu, and he's like,
Right.
he finds a manuscript in his desk, and he starts reading it, and he's like, I've read this story before. And then he realizes that's why he knows that the cop's going to come in and let him out of the jail and stuff. But he can't remember the ending, so he sends Al to go try and find the book that's already been written in the future. And then he comes back. He shows up directing on the bandstand, and then starts showing him that he has the book, and he comes over to talk to him. And that's when they realize it's a
double
solve the
murder.
mystery. The book was never finished because people were supposed to write in with their theories for what happened.
Right,
during the mystery.
Because basically he's supposed to die too. So it's not just
Yeah.
the other guy; he's supposed to die as well.
Mm-hmm.
And now Al, because of that, is starting to suspect the woman. Yes, it's coming back to me now.
Yeah, and he tells him he's gonna. This is like halfway through the episode, I think, which I thought it was clipping along pretty good. He tells him that he's gonna get shot at LaGuardia, so to stay away from the airport.
Right. And here Al's doing some reconnaissance.
Yeah,
he brought binoculars
just in case you need them.
Yeah, speaking of clipping along, I had to watch this at the last minute, and I was like, okay, what parts can I just skip ahead so that I can fit this in before the show? I couldn't really, I was like, there's no filler in this episode.
Yeah, it's chock full of information.
Right. No, but it is. It actually is. Even when I was trying to do the sort of edit that I sometimes do, I ran into a situation where every scene there's so many important details that I just said, okay, I'll do it this way this time. Now, at this point, again,
Seymour went to get the cab.
Right. And
see, this scene is, I guess it's designed to kind of like bait and switch, because I thought Seymour was the one that was shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because he left.
Right, they get shot at, and then you think it's Seymour.
You think it's Seymour or somebody that he kind of had in the back wing there to shoot him. Because Seymour was also with him in the elevator. Who's to say that he didn't push him and then he faked his own
right? And because Seymour seems like this kind of bumbling, annoying, whatever, like you think that he would be he'd be serious and he'd be the killer. Yeah. Also, it could be that somehow maybe she's working with him. She was talking to Seymour. Yes. I think years ago, I'm trying to think when I saw this the first time. I think that I kind of thought maybe she had something to do with it until this point. I thought maybe she is working in a cahoots with somebody, like she was working in cahoots with Seymour.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time when I watch murder mysteries, I usually look for the person they're trying to put the least amount of focus on, because a lot of times it's that person that did the crime. And then I like how Sam just got shot at, I guess, did he get like grazed by the bullet or something shattered and cut his face? And then he immediately goes for cover and just starts making out with the girl again.
Well, I mean,
I almost died. Kiss me.
Yeah,
I understand though. I mean, he's leaping from place to place. He's putting in a lot of work. Sometimes.
Al even makes a reference to that. He's like, "You can't see straight. It's been a long time for you." When they're discussing at the bar, and he's like, "I'm not like you. I'm not like that."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Baby Sam needs to get laid."
The thing is that this actress, it's not there's something about just her energy that's positive. I don't really know how to explain it. It's not just looks or whatever. There's just something very kind of.
She definitely has like kind of a classic old Hollywood style, especially in this episode, and you can totally tell.
Right.
She stands out. She stands apart from the other actors even. And I know she's the only female for the most part, but she does really, kind of hold her own.
Right. And I think throughout the series, she's one of my more favorite kind of love interests that they gave him. So at this point, the cab goes away and she's in it. And
someone else got in too, though.
Right. Someone else got in and then it went away. And I think that at this point, maybe even Seymour at this point thinks that maybe she's guilty or maybe she went with him willingly or something. But at this point, Sam still with his gut instinct decides that it's better to go there, even though it's seemingly a bad idea because he's going to the exact place that he shouldn't be going to.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken. And here there's a part where he also yelled at him before. So at this point also he's sort of apologizing to Al and to him at the same time, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a nice scene. And then he also even tells him some slang. He goes, "Oh, she's my main squeeze," and I think he's like, "Oh, I love that term."
Well,
I'll ask you. I'll ask you guys about that later because Al makes a reference to that particular piece of slang later.
He says it right there. Go ahead.
And I do want to back up to that little special effect too because I think as cheesy as 80s television's special effects were, this one actually really worked where he gets up from the cab leaves and he walks towards Sam, and I'm like, I always look at, because of my eye, that's the way it works, I'm always looking at like if I see matte lines or if I see some weird imperfections in a shot, and they did a good job on this. I mean, I see it now, but maybe when I was watching it on my little tablet, I couldn't see it as much, but
for its day and age,
yeah,
this is pretty good work. For that time, whatever they did here, this isn't terrible. I mean, they don't have the kind of technology we have today. This wasn't embarrassing. This looked pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
If you cleaned up like the colors, maybe the black levels, it would be perfect.
Yeah,
maybe the lighting isn't perfect, but it's, again, I still like it. It's good. Doesn't bother me. I'd rather have a show with great writing and effects that are just sort of okay than a show with all the money in the world that nobody knows how to write, which is what we have today. We have today such high budgets for shows, and then they don't know how to
they skimp on the writing. Yeah.
Were you gonna say something, CC? Did we cut you off?
Well, just in the previous scene in the cab, I really liked that banter because it really plays on how Sam is talking to Al, but obviously everyone else can't see Al. So in that instance, he was talking to the both of them at the same time, using responses that applied to the both of them. And I really liked how that was written.
Those are fun gimmicks that they started getting into towards the latter part of this series.
Totally.
Yeah.
So they're here. They arrive at this. They're going to the airport or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm. And the kid thinks he's Humphrey Bogart and wants an autograph.
Right. And then this is the part where he gets shot at, and still it kind of seems like maybe she has something to do with it. But then here's where everything is revealed.
Mm-hmm.
First, it's the building manager, right? It's that the landlord.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that he was behind the murders, and he's actually holding the lady as a hostage in back here. Let me see.
Yeah. You missed the most important part, though. They're looking for her at the airport because they still suspect her, and Al volunteers to check the women's room.
Oh,
yeah. You never know.
Al always.
And another important thing, Tex obviously reminded us that kid is supposed to be a young Woody Allen.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. I read that too. And it's funny because now that we've seen a young Michael Jackson in one of these episodes, and now
Buddy Holly.
Right, and Buddy Holly. Now I'm like looking to see like who is this random character over here in the corner? Is he anybody? Is that anybody? So it's kind of funny. I didn't catch the Woody Allen reference until I was reading some factoids after the fact.
I didn't realize either, and I think that first of all, today I have a feeling they wouldn't have him cameo inside this show. He's less of a popular auteur these days, Woody Allen.
Can't imagine.
Not because of his films, but I highly doubt that any kind of Netflix series or NBC would have them meeting Woody Allen.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's not even the right age in this point. I think Woody Allen's like
15, I think.
Yeah, 15
I think,
or
yeah,
7.
he was 15 or 16, according to some of the websites that I read. But I guess there's a little disagreement in the chat. I also thought that it was Woody Allen because every website I went to said it was supposed to be a young Woody Allen, not Mickey Spillane. But I can see, I guess, technically how that could be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
correct. But everywhere I did the research, it said Woody Allen.
Remind me the motive of the landlord. Why did he want to kill them? Suddenly it escapes me.
Because he thought she was in love with him or whatever. Like I think she says,
right.
why did he think I turned, or something about turning him on? How could I turn him on, or how could he think that I would turn him on? And Sam just kind of gives her a look because she turns on everybody.
Right. You're right.
Even this shot of her like tied up makes me think of Jessica Rabbit with the gag and stuff.
She has a very Jessica Rabbit vibe.
And that came out like the year before the show started, so maybe they took some influence. Oh yeah, and he keeps getting all the wrong gangster detective references.
Mm-hmm.
So he manages to overcome that guy, and then they arrest him. Now he's at the train station with a lady, and all is well. Yeah.
I love the little pan, and he's just staring at him.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's here's looking at you, kid, or something, right?
This is the start of a beautiful friendship, maybe?
Right, sorry, I meant the start of a beautiful friendship.
Yep.
And
he's totally changed because he's been the big nerd that's totally into crime novels with all the lingos and stuff, and suddenly he's talking normal. He's like, that's terrifying. I just want to read about it.
Right. Once he got into a situation where there was danger, suddenly the whole thing isn't so exciting for him anymore. As long as it was some kind of fantasy, but once people are shooting at him, he suddenly didn't love it as much.
Yeah.
This is where I wanted to ask you guys a question regarding the comment that Al made about Seymour. How does Seymour take the term main squeeze, and how does that become so popular in the Black community in the future? Is that like an Easter egg that we'll find out later in the seasons?
I don't think, from what I recall, I don't think it's ever addressed. I also don't think that this is actually the next episode chronologically, what we're watching here.
This is the one I saw.
Yeah.
Honeymoon Express is the next one. That's where he's on the train.
Yeah, that was confusing because this character references Scott Bakula as a her.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when I was reading like what the next episode is, it was the one that you were talking about, Script. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's a male. So it's Roku's got it mixed up.
Well, this is one of the things that ended up happening with the network is that they didn't know what episodes they were always going to air next. So
which is weird because they're supposed to have like a little preview of the next episode, so that would make it difficult.
Because of the affiliates. The affiliates had their own stuff that they want to air. It was really, really complicated. So the main network knew what the next episode was going to be, but at the same time, they're like, well, on the schedule, we're probably going to have an older episode come back on the cycle. So what we'll do is we'll do a couple of random cuts where once Sam leaps, we'll cut to the episode that we think we're going to be airing next week on the show. And so this was before they had finished
The first run.
Their schedule lineup for season 2, and they also wanted to hook people to come back for season 2. So they decided, okay, let's do the one where Sam is for the first time in the body of a woman, and then they'll talk about that over the course of the break. And then when season 2 starts up, they'll come back to try and see that episode, but we'll show them a whole bunch of others before we reset that up, which is, oh gosh, I can't remember what is like what price Gloria, maybe the episode like the 4th one.
Right. Yes.
So yeah, and then sadly, unfortunately for the DVD and Blu-ray release, they retain those original cuts, so that even if you're watching it in proper order, a lot of the times you're going to get a bunch of episodes in like the 3rd or 4th season where the leaps end with Sam back in episodes from the 1st season.
Just take it as Sam recalling at the end of the entire series, and his brain is still Swiss cheese, and it's all out of order. So.
Yeah, like, I would not even be surprised if someone out there has recut the entire series where every subsequent episode he leaps into the right body.
Yeah, I would think some. Why wouldn't they want to do that for the collection?
It's probably just has to do with the fact that it'd be a lot of work. Because again, those are master tapes that they are scanning and putting onto DVD or Blu-ray form, and they don't have to recut anything there. They don't have to redo any of the special effects if they don't want to. So that's why they'll just leave it as it was, because it's a lot cheaper just to transfer it from negative to the DVD or Blu-ray medium than it would be to, all right, let's go to the back of every single episode. Let's go take a look at each episode recording guide, and then let's grab the shot from the subsequent episode and reintegrate it into the previous one, and then re-render and re-export, and then stamp that onto a DVD or Blu-ray.
I believe the technical term for that is
yeah.
Do you think anybody is ever gonna sort of do a remastering of sort for this? Some kind of, this is a really good show. Why won't they do something?
Well,
I know
those remastering departments, they're no longer around in as much of in frequency as they used to be like 15, 20 years ago. And for some strange reason, even when they were doing the Quantum Leap stuff, I guess they just didn't find anyone passionate enough about the show to try and put in the effort and do this for the right price.
Do you think that they could ever do widescreen? Is there any chance, or there's no chance?
I don't know if they managed to shoot it cinematically in widescreen.
They probably didn't, because I mean, some of the older Star Trek shows there was no widescreen back then either. Requirement. Yeah. I mean, they remastered Star Trek, the original series, and it wasn't widescreen. I mean, with a lot of effort, they can probably do any show widescreen that wasn't shot widescreen now with artificial intelligence, because we're doing it with photography. But that would kind of open up a can of worms that a lot of purists would kind of, Sean, close your ears, would say caca to.
Not only that, what
I
if
would
the
say
eventuality where there's a human human character that is cut off because of the 4:3 aspect ratio, and then the AI is regenerating who they are. That's getting into rights issues too, especially, and they're regenerating it based off another shot where they know that they're in the shot, but you see their shoulder because it's cut off. Like, they're not going to do that. The cheapest way would just be to crop off the top and bottom.
Sure. It's too much work.
Even then, fans are not going to like that, because you're going to miss details.
No. I never like that they cut the top and bottom, like in Seinfeld or whatever that was. I really want them to make it widescreen.
I think they did that with The Simpsons, and people pitched a fit about it for Disney Plus and stuff.
That's why I canceled Disney Plus. They fixed The Simpsons, but they didn't fix the rest of the shows. I refuse to watch it if they're gonna cut off 30% of the image. It's like, what's the point?
That's what I hated about movies growing up, because they would until I was like 12, 13, I didn't know that they used to chomp off the sides. I never really thought about it. And then I discovered widescreen movies on VHS, and I was like, why would anyone want to watch this any other way?
Yeah.
And then eventually everybody just caught up to me, I guess.
The funny thing is, growing up in the industry, and then hearing all the the consumer complaints about widescreen on a 4:3 television screen, people were thinking the opposite. People were saying, why are there black bars on the top and bottom? I want to see the whole picture. And, I would love to, go up to him and flick him in the eyeball and say, shut the fuck up. This is the right way of watching a movie.
Yeah, man, I can't tell you how many times I saw Return of the Jedi until I saw it in widescreen, and there was a Gamorrean guard that walked in on the side, and I was like, who the hell's that guy?
Exactly. Exactly. And then Pan and Scan came in, and they tried to, kind of go halfway with that, and that was another mess.
Yeah, Pan and Scan, I never liked that. That annoys me, Pan and Scan.
Oh my God, yeah.
They used to do terrible things. It's
I mean, they're still doing terrible things. Yeah.
they still are, yes. So I guess we went through this episode. Let's just, talk about some thoughts. I'll just go one by one, say what you thought about it. Sean, what did you think about this episode? Also in comparison to ones that we've seen until now.
It is my favorite episode so far out of the entire season. And I'm a sucker for a good murder mystery, and I like fedoras. I always wanted to rock a fedora, but I can't. And I don't know, I just like the time period. Clue is like one of my most favorite movies ever, so I got kind of Clue vibes with it being set in the 50s and being a mystery. And I think we should bring back nightclubs that have dinner, dancing, tuxedos, and big bands.
Live bands, yeah.
Live
bands. Yeah.
What did I say about Sean last week?
I'm a weirdo.
He's an old soul.
No, he first of all, he's right, and also I think they should bring back these type of ladies that we see here.
Of course, the nice ones.
No, because
nice ladies.
These days you see shows and they don't make that kind of effort. Suddenly you appreciate that old school Hollywood vibe. You could tell some effort was put into it.
We've lost a lot of very good casting directors that had an eye for real beauty instead of an eye for anorexia.
Right.
Give her a sandwich.
I'm always either trying to get my wife to do the big 90s hairstyle, tease it into oblivion, or every once in a while we'll be watching something from like World War II, and I'm like, you should do that. She's like, no, shut up, go away.
Too much work, screw you.
Tex Rogers actually makes an interesting point. He says that this show occurred before Sam was born. Is that true?
Yes.
He was.
I was reading something about it.
Pregnant with him.
Okay.
I was reading a lot of like backstory too, with Belisario and his, I guess his advocacy for, what do you call it? Birth rights or child rights or something like that. And how he was saying that this was done on purpose because life begins at inception or conception and not birth or something like that. So, it was kind of an interesting read.
It's interesting what you're saying, but I will say this, it's subtle. Like if today they would do it, it would be like with a sledgehammer. And this thing, I don't think that it's, even if he thought to himself that, I've never thought about it ever until you just mentioned it. I've just watched this episode and I didn't really think one way or another.
As a viewer, you have to be into it enough.
Yeah, like the other part too is that Sam has been born, and that's why he's able to go back to that point. I mean, obviously, if someone wasn't born or anything, like there's only one time he goes beyond his birth, and that's through some sort of very close genetic anomaly.
Right.
And everything else, it's kind of like it's really, really close because they're trying to play around with the idea that, this guy, there's validity to that where life begins. The concept is, or at least the counter argument is, that's not a guarantee, right? Because tragedy occur that prevent that.
Sure.
So, and I'm trying to say this as politely as possible to not get demonetized or anything, or flagged or anything like that. But no, I mean, it's a perfectly valid thing. It's like, let's play around with this. This is our absolute earliest possible cutoff here. And it's not just within someone's lifetime, but it's like, okay, we cannot really start before this. And if we knew the exact day of conception, that'd be a little bit too on the nose, maybe. So we're just gonna give you a broad idea, and I think the earliest Sam is there is when his mother is only like after the 3 months pregnant part is when the earliest we go back in regards to Sam's life. So we don't ever get anything before that, as far as I know. And in April, so let's see, Sam was born in August, so April was it like May, June, July, August. So I was like 3 months still. Yeah, she's 5 months pregnant ish, 4, 5, 6 months pregnant with Sam at that point. So yeah, it's perfectly feasible. Second trimester kid. You know?
Back Yard Tardis, who I guess is listening to this at work, he wrote today's actresses are either starved or jumbo. And I agree. Some actresses don't flip Richard Brooks's switch, the ones today. And they're talking about is it considered an error? I don't think it's an error. I mean, yes, some shows do have errors, and I understand that. I also think that back in the day, they didn't have that situation where people are watching every frame and discussing it like us gentlemen now. Yeah. I think that in those days, they showed it on the air. Maybe somebody recorded it on a VHS or something. You kind of understood that it's not always going to be 100%. Sometimes they change something. It's relatively speaking, though, I still think this show does try to honor its rules as best as it can.
Also, I meant to mention when I was rambling that Sam actually makes a reference to Thomas Magnum, and that made me happy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
I wonder to myself, I don't know why, when I see an episode, I don't know, I was thinking about this when I was watching it. I watched it a few weeks ago. Donald Belisario, how can the same guy that made Quantum Leap be the same guy that also brought us NCIS? They're polar opposites. Quantum Leap is exactly the type of show that's quality and interesting, whereas NCIS is the most generic thing ever.
It's a safe procedural. It's he was there just really to set up the room and have something easy that the networks are like, please just don't stir the boat with us. Give us a standard single location show, you know, bunch of same characters over and over again, and let's play around with newer ideas. I think that's basically just something he fell into because he got his dream show, so to speak, with Quantum Leap.
So you're saying, so at that point he was just looking to make money, and somebody just wrote him a check, and he's like, sure, they'll sit in the same room and talk about the investigation, and that'll be it. And
not question why there's so much crime in the Navy.
So many naval officers being found dead on that show every second, and also, in addition, I mean, that show is wild, really. I don't know if the writing was always that bad. If you look at more recent years, some of the writing on that show, but sometimes it has a so bad it's good, meaning it's not good writing. But I look at it and I start laughing because the screenplay is so bad that it actually makes me laugh unintentionally.
Yeah, but that just comes down to the point where even some of the best writers out there, if the studios or producers don't have their heads up, or if the studio producers have their heads up their butt and they don't care about good taste, they just want something reliable that they can sell. Sadly, you're going to get some of the best writers having to work that way just so they can pay their bills until they can get enough of a reputation where it's the dream part is you're such a good and popular writer. It's almost impossible for someone to say no when you pitch them an original script. And that's what Belisario managed to do with Quantum Leap. Like Magnum PI was a success. The works he was doing before that were all successes. He said, I'm doing this type of show. And the only pushback they said is, well, we don't really want, new cast every week because that's tons of contract negotiations.
Right.
And you have to have like a starring show, which means it's a different negotiation compared to a guest star. And so that's where Tom Belisario got possibly the best type of note and pushback ever, so that he was able to create something like Quantum Leap, where it's like, great, we have 2 stars of the show, and then everybody else is guest stars, day players, what have you, easy contracts to do, easy to fill in. You have a very tiny cast, And the network was like, great, this is fantastic. Oh, it's all location stuff. Oh, we can reuse sets from other movies and other productions before they're taken down or struck. And we can get like discounts and save money that way. Great. Even better. Let's go. Let's do that. And it ended up being
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like, and again, I don't like to talk about the new show, but just because I like how the visual here, I mean, the new show, it always feels cheap. It looks cheap. It looks like it's filmed in a cheap place. This thing, he's always in a different location. It always looks impressive. You're saying that they saved a lot of money, but I would take any episode of this show has so much more. The sets, the even let's say now that he was at that party with the tuxedo. Nothing. I don't think that they've done anything on the new show that had that kind of feel to it.
No, they haven't. The closest they get on the new show is just going to various locations, but they have that standing set of the Project Quantum Leap, and it looks very generic and it's boring. And I don't want to. When you're in a show like Quantum Leap, you're not supposed to spend time in the present. And in the later seasons where they do actually show modern day Earth, so to speak, it's kind of ridiculous.
Right.
They got the light up earrings and the shoes that light up.
Well, we'll wait till you see some of the clubs and places that Al has to go.
But at least they didn't that's another good thing. They didn't overdo it, as opposed to this new series that every second they're in present day, which again, this series, it wasn't actually present day because they were supposedly in the future. It was different. Mm-hmm. But on this show, they understood that they don't need to show us that future every second, because it's really not important. When they do, it's kind of weird, like you said, and I don't mind it. It's interesting in the few times they show it, but I like that they don't show it every second.
Yeah, it's kind of the other thing I really like about this season. Watching, I was going to mention it a few weeks ago, but I like the kind of, I had a term for it. I forget the name of it. Anyway, I like that they have not present characters that exist mostly in your mind, more than being on screen, like Ziggy the computer. All you've seen is the little device that interacts with him. Gushy they showed once, but they still talk about his character and his behaviors, and that's building a character in my head for how he would behave, and he doesn't even have to be present. So like any little information about the future is also going to be like building character in my head. For I'm like fascinated by the off-screen characters. You could have a whole cast of characters, and I would know how they would behave just by the two main characters interacting and talking about them. I would get a feel for how they would behave and stuff like that.
It almost builds like interest. No, I agree with you. Like growing up, I always thought, oh, Gushy, and then, well, I don't want to do any spoilers, but in the case that you may or may not see him, you're like, wow, it's Gushy, because you never see him once. Right. I mean, it's not that you're going to see him every 5 minutes on this show, not at all. But I'm just saying that if suddenly such a situation happens and you happen to see him, it becomes a lot more interesting. You're like, wow. And it's like you said, Sean, you've heard so much about him all this time that when you see him, his character already, like, you feel like you're happy to see the guy. Yeah. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Little guy, bad breath.
Yeah, that's the way they describe him.
Yeah.
So, Ro, this was also your favorite episode?
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot for a lot of reasons. I think, like I said earlier, the chemistry of the actors were great. The two, Scott Bakula and the nice lady. Yes. I think they did. They had really good chemistry. I almost feel like a lot of the aspects of production were heightened in this episode. Not only locations and things like that, but I think even the co-stars, the guest co-stars, I think they brought something definitely higher caliber to the table on this episode. So I really enjoyed a lot of this.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Script, you're very well versed in this series. How do you think this episode ranks when it comes to this series.
It's one of my favorites because it's really captures the relationships between Sam and Al. We find out how many times Al's married in this episode, and we also see Sam almost for like, the first time really starting to enjoy himself in these leaps, which I thought was kind of fun. Like we get a little bit of that previously, and the episode before that you get a little bit more, but this one it feels like he's actually kind of almost a bit more accepting of what he's doing and trying to have fun with it, as well as embrace the responsibility of what he's there to do. And this episode really cements more of the franchise brand of what every episode's going to entail, with the structure, the format, the resolution, and then the leap to the next episode.
I agree. And do you think that when they did this, do you think when they saw this episode and they finished making it and they looked at it, do you think they knew it was good?
Probably did. Yeah.
Was this like a champagne situation, you think? They were like popping bottles? Like, I would be really happy. I mean, this is a network TV show in 1989. You got really good actors, just even the leads. Really great concept. It's different from any show that's on the air at that time on TV. And they didn't have a lot of science fiction stuff. I really think that it stood out. It was so different. And it's sort of an idea that either everything comes together in the best possible way, or it could be a huge stinker like the new one. But in this case, I feel like everything just comes together so well in this episode. Yeah, I mean, even now, after all these years, just watching it, it holds up. I like it even if I compare it to something that's being made now, personally.
No, I do as well. I think that just goes down to the good writing and the concept. And the other part too is I know a lot of fans of Quantum Leap that completely miss the idea that it is a science fiction show, because the science fiction is really just the device that gets Sam to these different locations, but everything else, it's really a heartwarming show about regular people. No one really is a huge important historical figure that Sam is trying to fix or correct or what have you. It's just how small little improvements in other people's lives can actually have a great ripple effect of positivity throughout the rest of society.
That's one thing I think we forgot to mention at the end of this episode, was the whole purpose of Sam being there wasn't to solve the mystery. It was to inspire Seymour to become another pulp novelist.
Yeah. I like that too. I like how Ziggy says something that seems morally and ethically right, and Sam does it, but the actual leap was, nope, it's to get him a novelist. Nope, is to get Buddy Holly to write Peggy Sue. It's,
Yeah.
By the way, Script, you have a question here, and both Tex Rogers and Ron Donofero were interested in hearing the answer.
It's a good question.
Tex Rogers says, this was the first show written by 3 people. Question for the Script Doctor, is it easier or harder to deal with multiple writers, and does the show benefit from multiple writers?
A show always benefits from multiple writers because you have different points of view and different sets of eyes looking at a script to find ways to make it better. In a show like Quantum Leap, you actually have a writer's room. Everybody is writing or contributing in some way to every episode. Only some writers get sole credit based on how much work they put in. And some writers, that if they're working in pairs or teams, share the credit depending on how much work they put in. So, with television shows, there's always multiple writers working. Rarely do you have just one guy writing. Like J. Michael Straczynski in his Babylon 5, he wrote pretty much all of those scripts, but he also had Harlan Ellison over his shoulder helping him out whenever he did. And rarely was Harlan Ellison credited solely on an episode. Sometimes he'd be co-credited with JMS and so forth. Then you have more modern writers today like Taylor Sheridan. He is solely credited on a lot of his shows. However, it's been recently revealed that he kind of outsources through odd means his own private mini room or mini writer's room where they do a lot of the work for him. He rewrites them and he takes sole credit. So it's rarely in the cases where a single author writes everything on their own. It's always better to have extra voices because the best writers will tell you that they're too good to write a perfect first draft and they can always make it better. and having an extra voice in there to help make it better just speeds things along, because you need a palate cleanser if you want to be able to identify problems, or if you want to be able to identify something that's a really good idea, but really take it to its limits so that the audience can enjoy it.
Well, somebody also has all the other season 1 shows have a single writer credited, but I think you answered that sometimes it looks like there's a single writer, but there's more than meets the eye.
Yeah, because they'll do what's called like a season breakdown. So that's what the entire writer's room is there. And they will say, well, these are the episodes that we want to do over this course of window. Let's pitch ideas. Where are they going to go? And everybody contributes. And then they jot down those ideas, and they plan out, okay, well, how is this episode going to be? And they talk about the story elements that they could use, and each writer volunteers an idea that, and the showrunner picks kind of the best, and they work it out. If you want to see a great example of an active writer's room breaking down a season, go watch the Deep Space Nine documentary, What We Left Behind. There's a section where Ira Stephen Bear gets his old writer's room together, and they break down the first episode of season 8 of Deep Space Nine. And everything that's saying that is a pitch perfect example of what it's like in a writer's room, especially the casual nature of it. And go watch that documentary in that section there. You'll be very enlightened of how a good functioning writer's room process works.
Well, Vince Gilligan had a good writing room in Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen any documentaries on that part stuff yet, but I should check it out. I'm pretty sure they've definitely have some cameras in the writer's room when they're breaking down some stories.
I've always been curious because, and I won't go off topic a lot, but I'll just say that in that show, I feel like he did Breaking Bad. He had his team, and even when he went to Better Call Saul, he still used a lot of the same people. He sort of has his crew. He works with them. He does whatever he does, and he builds something that's really, I think, shows that really do something exceptional is when they have that type of writer's room, and even other crew people that are all together and all know each other and work with each other for a long time. I think a lot of shows don't do that, and the ones that do probably still benefit from it.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like the writer's room follows a model. The problem being is that you have very broad spectrum of quality of writers these days compared to what they were back in the late 80s and early 90s, and for the early 2000s when you had The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, The Shield, a whole bunch of those shows. There's a different pedigree of writers working on them to try and make them better, and there's a great scrutiny from the networks and cable shows to hold those writers to the fire, so to speak, if the show was not performing at the level that they needed. With the oversaturation, with the streaming aspect and the oversaturation of the market, it's now just content as opposed to what a show like Quantum Leap does, which is it's an artistic show that is trying to get audiences to think about things they otherwise normally wouldn't think about, and ideally be a little bit of inspiration and aspiration at the same time. I
agree. Cece, you kind of jumped in here very late, and we're really thankful that you sat and watched it. You did it. You watched it and came on here. How did it feel? I know that the reason I asked you is because I remember that you like this show. I know you used to watch it, so I was just wondering, after a long time that you saw this episode, how did you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I discovered it in syndication growing up, so every day I saw it on TV, I watched it. Being said, I haven't seen this episode in a few years, but when you mentioned, when I saw, this is the episode for tonight, I did immediately recall it. And so, but I watched it again, obviously, for the first time in a few years. And, I mean, overall, I liked it. I would say straight up, I love the detail work. The sets are simple, but they're very, very detailed. Like, just the lamp outside the office and just, the decal on the door and the clothing, the hair, the way their hair, the way the sultry lady's hair was done, very, very fluffy. And just a lot of fun moments. It looked like they were having fun. I love the moment where Sam just looks up and to the sky and says thank you. Or when Dean's got it, got the binoculars and he's looking at the voluptuous round objects of desire. So that was a lot of fun. It's just something that I I would not pass it by on a rewatch. But I will add one thing that I didn't love about it, and that was just the kind of throwaway aspect of the villain, the guy who ended up being the killer. It's like, oh, it was the building manager guy we saw for one scene earlier on in the episode. And I guess it would be difficult to know exactly how to do that differently if you don't want the femme fatale, but it needs to be a character. You know, while I was listening to y'all discussing the episode, it struck me, since the idea is that he wasn't actually supposed to be here to solve the murder, it was to start a new writing career, or just to inspire the young man. We didn't necessarily need to know the identity of the killer, and I understand you don't. From a TV perspective, maybe they wouldn't be allowed to let the guy go without the audience having a solution. But there's ways around that. Like, what if the killer was shrouded in mystery, but there is a standoff, and the killer, gets shot and falls into the river, so that the body's not going to be found. I kind of would have appreciated that. It's just like some kind of like crazed lunatic who's like totally in love with her, and we see him for 5 seconds on screen. It's a minor thing in the end because I really enjoyed the episode, but I would like to see that done a little more. I don't know.
There might have even been a better way to do it, to make it the elevator guy that was like, I have tickets for the was it a baseball game or whatever? And Sam was oh no, I don't really want to go. And he's like, no, it's for what's her face. So he at least showed an interest beforehand.
Yeah, the elevator guy.
He wasn't waiting that long at all on that.
The elevator guy would have been maybe even more of a twist, because why would he be the one that kills them?
Well, then you could still use the she's in love with me, or I'm in love with her,
right,
whatever,
like a weird obsessive thing.
Well, there's something about Mary aspect before the movie. There's something about Mary,
right? That is kind of like that, and the problem with this is that if you would have dwelled too much on any of these other characters, I think people would have suspected. Somehow they chose a guy that you basically forgot even existed.
I did.
They figured nobody's going to remember that there was this character at the beginning for a second. Who even cares about him? And then that's the guy. I figure I don't blame them. It's not a bad route to go.
It worked for wrapping it up, I guess.
It did.
Yeah.
But that's also kind of the trope in some mysteries, is that it's the character you least suspect, and the one way to make the character you least suspect the one that does it is to not bring them around as often, so that you're not pointing the finger at them right away, or the audience doesn't know, oh, it's obviously that guy. It has to be the most background, unassuming person, because that's where you get the surprise.
Yeah, I forgot about him so much that when he was in the train station in the trench coat, I was like, wait, is he a cop? I can't remember.
Mm-hmm. I did like how they managed to use Sam's hologram of like him saying, this is where he's aiming, and this is how he's reloading, and all like, it's like, great. You're taking advantage of
that was good. Yeah.
The cool time travel technology that allows Al to see what's going on beyond Sam's normal vision.
Yep. I agree.
So I think that we did a good summary of this episode. Really liked it's a great episode, and I think there's pretty much a unanimous feeling both here and also people in the chat, both on YouTube and Rumble. I think this is an episode that people liked. I consider it a classic episode, and I guess before just our saying goodbye here to people, just want to thank you. We have again Ron Donofero, Tex Rogers, Richard Brooks. We have
Back Yard Tardis.
No, there was somebody. I missed somebody.
Malachi D. Wildman.
Malachi D. Wildman. Yeah, Malachi D. Wildman. I hope
Malachi.
It's
I'm
Italian.
gonna go with
Hey.
Malachi unless somebody says anything else.
That seems right.
I'm gonna go. Oh, and Melvin was here. That's true. Melvin Deeply was here. He's a good guy. So he was here, and Malachi, and even Backyard Tardis, who's at work, but he also made an appearance here in the chat. Thanks to everybody. We're gonna pick up next week. We'll do our next episode, same time, same day. And now I'll just go one by one. Sean, do you have anything you want to plug or talk, before we go?
New sketch video coming soon. I finished a sketch cover. I'm trying to do a video based on it for a comic book, so look for that soon. We stream on Sundays and just hang out and shoot the caca, as Ro might say. And yeah, that's it.
Cool.
Hang out.
Ro, do you have anything you want to plug?
I usually drop audio episodes on Thursday. We just had a nice discussion on the sequel trilogy, and I imbibed a lot of liquor for that one. So I never really talked about the sequel trilogy because I'm not too fond of it, but one of my followers challenged me to have a nice discussion on what I liked, what I didn't like, and we recorded it. So look for that wherever you get your other quality podcasts. Other than that, I'm floating around on Twitter looking for a fight.
So wait, in this podcast that you're doing about the sequel trilogy, is there somebody doing it with you that loves it and you don't like it, or is it just you don't like it?
No, so the follower that I guess she had posted that she rewatched The Last Jedi and she couldn't understand the hate that people had for the film. And I'm like, oh, I can tell you why. But we got together and she likes the sequel trilogy, but she kind of agreed with some of my points as to why I didn't like it. The Force Awakens is fine. The Last Jedi for me was crap.
Disaster, yes.
And to me, it's funny when people say I hate The Rise of Skywalker. And I'm like, how can you hate The Rise of Skywalker when The Last Jedi is right there? But
they're both terrible. That's the thing.
Yeah,
but
they're terrible in different ways.
I fully
The Last
expected.
Jedi is a far superiorly made film compared to The Rise of Skywalker, but The Last Jedi does some pretty horrible things compared to The Rise of Skywalker.
I had no expectation for the last one, and I was like, they already screwed it all up, so whatever they can pull out of their butt on this last one, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Somehow.
It's so pathetic, that last one. Really, I remember sitting in the theater. It was so pathetic. It's I do feel like if it's somebody that wasn't J.J. Abrams, if maybe somebody would have called you script, maybe you would have thought of a way to salvage something there. But J.J. Abrams and the clowns that he worked with on that screenplay, that is
But
an
it was
awful...
Kasdan.
Terrio?
Kasdan should have known better.
Oscar Academy Award winner Chris Terrio from Argo, who also wrote Batman v Superman and Justice League. You think he couldn't? You're saying that he should have been able to come up with something better than The Rise of Skywalker?
Argo was probably, maybe you said this to me before. Maybe I think maybe even you said this to me once, that I think that Argo was basically probably Ben Affleck guided him with the screenplay.
Yes,
I feel like this Chris Terrio guy, I don't trust him.
No, you don't want to trust him. I think he's also helped write Rebel Moon. I'm not 100% sure.
Yes, I think I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but it wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't
I saw
him.
his name in the credits. Yeah.
If it wasn't him, it was somebody like him, but that wouldn't surprise me if it would be him.
Sorry to bring the room down, by the way.
No problem. No. So anyhow, Ro, so where can people see this discussion you have?
Just on podcast audio form, wherever you guys download, your other favorite podcast. Just
Spotify, Apple, all those things.
Ask your smart speaker to play the latest Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast.
What date does that drop? Do you have a specific? Because I'm curious.
I'm curious about it too.
Oh, I just dropped it this morning, so it's out.
It's already there. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So next we have Script. I already talked about it, but you can give, even more details about your new show.
Yeah, so the new show, Scripts on Saturdays, we've got a new episode, a new screenplay, and a new co-host, someone here on the panel. Good old Price.
Yes.
We'll be reading a screenplay this Saturday. And for those of you that maybe don't want to watch on YouTube or whatnot, I've set it up on Spotify, so you can go check it out there. But for whatever reasons, but yes, we're going to be reviewing a new screenplay there. And earlier this afternoon, one of the other prospective co-hosts coming in, Mac Media, commented on Madden alongside with Lil Chad. So you got 2 extra videos talking about the screenplay with a total of 4 different perspectives of this script that we just read last week. And ideally we're going to have some more in addition to Price and myself's conversation on Saturday, peppered throughout the week afterwards, getting some great comments. And yeah, we're getting into some interesting territory here with the screenplays, because some of them are going to be great, some of them are going to be confusing and hateful and treacherous, if you will. But that's what the show is about, seeing what writers are pitching, what producers are liking, and seeing what type of writers out there are so good that the subject matter is irrelevant because they're just very good at telling a great story.
I highly recommend it, not only because I'm going to be on the show, but even regardless of my presence there. Even regardless of that, I would still recommend the show. And as for your videos, I think that the because I was doing editing in a few different things today, the Little Chad one, wait, there was Little Chad and there was another one that you added after the show. There's 2. Little Chad and
Mac Media is the other one that dropped today. Yep.
Okay, the Little Chad I listened to, the one that you dropped today, I saw it and I'm like, I have to catch that after I do all the streaming and editing and all that stuff. So I'll try to listen to that tonight. But cool. I highly recommend. I really like what you're doing. It's different. It's interesting. I like the conversation from Saturday that you had about that Madden script, which I actually I was able to read in advance, and I thought a lot of the comments you made were interesting. I thought it was also just a very interesting concept for a show. So if any of you here like that kind of stuff when it comes to screenwriting, highly recommend the show. You should check out Script's channel on YouTube and this new show. Next and finally, we have CC Karaoke, who stepped in kind of last minute, and really thank you. Nick had Nick, the Back Yard Tardis, had a kind of work emergency. Thanks for coming, CC. Do you have anything you want to plug that you're doing?
Well, I just want to say, first of all, you got a doozy of a script on Saturday to discuss with the Script Doctor. I have attempted to read it myself so far, and wow, it is something.
Well, that'll make an interesting stream then. But
I think it will, yeah.
As far as your stuff, is there anything you want to talk about, plug, anything? People know your channel. It's a big channel with a karaoke, but there's a lot of stuff you do. Is there anything you want to plug or talk about or anything?
Typically, I do live karaoke on Friday nights. I have no idea if tomorrow's going to happen because it's really, really cold here, and I feel like not freezing my butt off streaming in the middle of the night. But yes, typically we do live karaoke on Friday nights, and sometimes you'll find Price a Reason there, along with Tom Connors of Midnight's Edge and others, and we just have fun.
Music warms the soul. Make it happen.
I can confirm that it's really, really fun. It's become a really nice hangout spot on Friday nights. I think I can say that at least we have fun. we enjoy it for sure.
I think the chat generally does too.
Somebody asks you, Ron Donafero asks, what, CC, you don't have a friggin' heater?
I've got 3 heaters and a propane tank, but we're in the middle of a Siberian air mass. And
light them all.
Everything's frozen. I'm locked inside my rig.
What kind of temperature are you dealing with there?
Well, I mean, like I'm a softie. I live on the coast, but minus 25. It's cold enough, you know.
That's cold.
That's Celsius, so that's like 8.
Oh, okay. That's not.
Well, -8 Fahrenheit, not +8.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, -8 Fahrenheit. That's bad then. Not that 8 Fahrenheit was a breeze, you know what I mean? 8 Fahrenheit itself is a downer, but -8 Fahrenheit.
That's beach weather in Chicago.
So thanks everybody for being here. This was a really pleasant stream. I enjoyed hanging out with everybody here. Thanks guys for coming on here. And I guess we'll see you all next week. Thanks to the people on YouTube and of course Rumble, where I see that some people are watching us. There isn't the same type of interaction there with the chat, but I know that people do watch it there. So thank you guys for tuning in as well. And we'll see you all next week. Now I'll put the outro to the show. Cece, I don't know if you've ever seen the outro, but I actually, I sing and I'm trying to impress Cece here. I actually sing on this outro.
Cool.
And I played the instruments too.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Best kazoo player ever.
Now let me just find it. Where is that outro? Oh, okay. I think it's this.
Slim player.